Hi, and welcome to the SaaSOps show. You know me, I'm Brian. You know Justine, she's Justine. But we're joined by two special guests today. We have Colin McCarthy, who's the VP for Global IT at Essence. And we have Mike Stone, who's our Community Director at BetterCloud. Colin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Colin McCarthy, VP for Global IT for Essence. Been with the company for 10 years, seen us grow from one office and 60 users to now 20 office and 2,000 users, and seen us grow from G Suite and one SaaS application to G Suite, Office 365, Dropbox, and a whole host, probably about another 20 or so SaaS applications. So it's been a good ride over the last 10 years.
Mike, why don't you tell us a little something about yourself?
Yeah, hello, I'm Mike. I'm the community director at BetterCloud. I've been at BetterCloud for, wow, almost 8 years. And prior to being the community director, I ran our expert advisory group, which is sort of like professional services. And prior to that, our support team. So I've seen lots of SaaS ops over the years, lots of different BetterCloud use cases. And yeah, excited to be on the show.
Mike's seen all of our very humble beginnings. He is also the unofficial historian of BetterCloud. When I wonder about some weird thing that we've done ages back, Mike's usually the person I go to.
Well, I remember the first Google Apps user group meeting they had in their little Broadway office, which was like in a 5-story walk up, little dark, dingy, little broom closet place.
There's an old dentist's office.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the stuff of nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
And now we have, no offices or 1,000 offices, however you want to call it. So many offices.
Here's the thing now, with a snap of the finger, I can be anywhere. And if I keep snapping my finger, I'm sure I'm going to just appear in different locations as we go.
Okay, stop telling our editors what to do
here. Well, we're here today to talk about what the heck even is SaaS Ops. We are on the SaaS Ops show. What is SaaS Ops? What is SaaS Ops to you, to me? I wanted to start by reading the definition that we have come up with for SaaS Ops at BetterCloud. SaaS Ops, a noun. A practice referring to how software as a service, SaaS, applications are discovered, managed, and secured through centralized and automated operations, ops, resulting in reduced friction, improved collaboration, and better employee experience. Colin, does this definition even ring true to you? Does this feel right? Was there something you would add?
I think as a definition, it is spot on. It does a really good job of highlighting, and even on your site, bettercloud.com/SaaSOps, those keywords are even highlighted with a box, discovered, managed, and secured. And it is a practice which is correct, because it's not one company, it's not one technology. It is very much an ideology. So it doesn't matter if you're on G Suite or Office 365, if you're using no cloud management application, or you're using BetterCloud, or using GAM, or you've created your own thing. It is a practice. It's an ideology. It's a method of working, as opposed to a single locked-in technology.
How about you, Brian? What do you think about this whole SaaS Ops thing?
I think it's a trend. It's on its way out. Oh wait, no, just kidding. All we're doing is getting more SaaS applications on a day-to-day basis, and I think the evolution of it kind of speaks to what it is, which is like we used to have one or two SaaS programs, and they were like the sort of outlier, and you just went in and you managed them. But there's no way for that to scale, because you get more and more. You start with one, you get 10. Maybe that's fine. Colin can speak to growing the size of a company to thousands of people. Like the simple actions that you would take in one application just really can't scale when you're like trying to do that same thing 100 times a day across like 200 different applications. And so there has to be kind of like I'd say it's like a framework or like a methodology to manage all of that stuff.
Mike, anything to add?
I agree that it's here to stay. You know, like Brian and Colin were saying, more and more apps are being added every day. More and more users are using these apps. It's hard to tell what's going on in those applications, who has access to them, what they may be sharing incorrectly. All these things are things you need to get control over.
Just think there's companies out there, we're one of them, where you have more than one way to share files to people. There's Office 365, there's G Suite, we have some files in Dropbox. To your point about figuring out how people are sharing things, we need a place where we could go to see all of that, see what's happening across all of our apps.
And I think organizations, are dramatically changing the way they operate, because they realize that the old way of everybody being inside the office on the corporate network, easily connecting to the locally attached storage, the network share, doesn't scale and work when everybody is in a different place and has to connect via a VPN and is on a slower connection and is trying to collaborate and share files and upload it. I think we'll see a greatly accelerated adoption of Office 365 or migrations to G Suite, and then very naturally the easy adoption of cloud-based and browser-based applications.
Well, and to your point, it's things that are increasing in complexity, so you can't have it gets less sustainable to have a person who, if you're talking about Exchange, a legacy Exchange deployment, you're talking about one person or more than one person whose sole job is probably to manage this thing. And I think when like SaaS applications first started becoming more common too, it was like, I would know every single little thing about the G Suite admin console and I would go in and do it. But when you start to layer on more and more applications and more functions and all this stuff, and that all becomes under the purview of IT to manage, you can't be an expert in every single one of those things. And you really need a way to manage it. And you need to be able to spend more time doing that and less time on like, is the fan burning out in the server that's in this closet?
I'll just put this over here with the rest of the file.
I think it is best to lease your services, pay a subscription. Yes, you can build your own car. Yes, you can maintain your own car. But if a lot of people choose to lease it, so that you always have that option of getting the next one. SaaS Ops or the SaaS adoption is, very comparable to that. It does allow you to focus on supporting your end users, supporting the business, allowing them to grow rather than being bogged down by constraints of, as you've said, or let's buy another, series of backup arrays for the on-premise Exchange server. Send an email out and telling everybody to delete emails because we've run out of storage on the cluster or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, which represents a better value for a business? Like you as an IT person sitting and troubleshooting like some odd setting in Exchange or replication or backups or all that stuff, or you as an IT person saying, hey, we discovered that a large number of users use this whiteboarding software, and it seems to be like pretty popular, and maybe we want to consider wider spread adoption, and we can actually now we know that it exists because of Discover or whatever, the types of SaaS spend management type things. We've realized it existed. We realize a lot of people use it. We've reached out to the vendor, and now rather than random people signing up for it, we've negotiated like better pricing on it. I mean, that's still a very, I think, real value to the business. And that's what SaaS Ops allows you to do. So talking about going from maintaining servers to discovering applications, have you reoriented or like how have you restructured your IT org around SaaS Ops?
So our team is very light and nimble, because we've always been, in G Suite as an organization, and I think that being in G Suite from since 2009 really did help with our expansion globally, because we didn't have to worry so much about physical servers being in those locations, and allowed us to expand very, very quickly with just purchasing licenses as opposed to needing something installed. Our team has a wide range of skills. The majority of their stuff is focusing on, I guess, the physical side of end user support. Everybody still does have a corporate laptop, which has to be fixed and maintained and repaired. There are still a lot of applications that aren't just in the browser, so you're always, even like what we're using at the moment, is to do this is a physical application that would need to be patched, maintained. So that's still a part of it. But then application access, license management, document transfers, calendar, deprovisions, when a user's leaving, and then transferring all of those calendar events to their line manager, that's still a huge part of the operation, and what our team members are doing.
We hired a SaaS Ops automation engineer at BetterCloud to help us with a lot of that stuff, because we figured, this whole SaaS thing's not going anywhere. How can we really utilize the different tools that we have, like work within this SaaS Ops framework to make sure that we're, empowering our IT team to be able to do things faster, do things in a more automated fashion. I'm curious, do you think that there's ever a world where you might hire a cloud engineer or something like that on your team?
Yeah, certainly would be a position that we would consider. Certainly a skill set that we look for. Any sort of Office 365, G Suite, Azure, AWS, GCP experience, or knowledge or experience of using Jamf or Dropbox, Slack. Any of those products are certainly what we look for on resumes when we have open positions. But yeah, even with our sort of small team, I think it will be a position that we'll look for in the future.
Mm-hmm. Stone, so you've talked to a lot of customers throughout the years and probably gotten to know a lot of different teams. Have you seen this as a trend with more and more people adopting SaaS Ops titles or specified SaaS Ops roles?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, speaking on behalf of the community, we've seen there's a job openings channel in our Slack. Slack's called Better IT right now. And I feel like at least once a week, we soon see a new SaaS Ops role show up in that job openings channel. Whereas, in the past, there were kind of more generalized IT focused roles. We're seeing a lot more SaaS Ops in the titles themselves. So, yeah, it's pretty cool to see. It's pretty obvious that there's a need for it. And maybe I'll flip the question back on the show hosts. Will you consider an application that you're looking at if it doesn't have an API that allows you to integrate with other services? Is that a deal breaker for you?
I think it's becoming a deal breaker more and more. It's just harder to justify getting an application that doesn't give us the flexibility to work with an API. And in the same way, it's harder and harder to justify buying software that doesn't just give you single sign-on out of the gate. Like, I almost think of them very similarly. It's sort of table stakes these days.
You have to think that, like, as a platform SaaS developer, like the people who are administering your application for a company, at least, like you can't think that they're spending all their time in your admin interface anymore. And like the power of these programs really comes from integrations anyway. So like to James' point, like APIs, SSO, like think that way first, because like I'm sorry, but like I've already got like literally 200 other applications. Like I can't sit and figure out like how your admin interface works all the time and like figure out how to invite a user and then like remember to go in and deactivate them afterwards. And like, if you're not going to build it, like your competitor will at some point here.
So I think we would be remiss if we did not talk about one really important piece of SaaS Ops, and that is the community. So I know that when I first started going to BetterCloud conferences or meetups, and I started meeting Colin, and I met Mike, and I met Brian, I really felt like I had found my people. And what we've seen the community blossom into since then has been, I mean, frankly, a beautiful thing. I would love to hear from everyone, really, any fun stories from the community, if there's something you learned maybe that you didn't know before.
I had the benefit too of being involved a little bit in like the Better IT community specifically for a little while. But then when I moved to New York from Chicago. When I actually moved and got to meet some people, I was like, oh my gosh, you're all real. Like, I'm not just talking to bots. But for me, like, Chicago isn't the center of the tech world. There's a lot of tech stuff there, but there weren't a ton of people that I knew, and I was out in the burbs anyway. Like, there weren't a ton of people I knew doing the same thing as me. And so finding that community was like a really good way for me to like meet people, like figure out best practices. Like, Stone literally got on calls with me multiple times and just was like, okay, just click here, now click here. Okay, I'll just do it for you. Like, it was great.
I think probably Michael did help with our initial trial of Flash Panel back in the day, and got us onboarded with that. Obviously I've been around for such a long time and developing gray hair, through the years and collecting obscure limited edition T-shirts from newsletters from time gone by. It has been great to see it grow. And I still remember learning at the very first Altitude. It wasn't called Altitude then. It wasn't even called a BetterCloud conference or a Better IT conference in Atlanta in 2015, I think. From one of the other groups there, one of the other customers there, in a sort of a breakout group, just talking to them. They were a lot smaller than we were as an organization, but they had a completely different industry, different setup. But talking with them of how they dealt with new starters, showed me that there was a different way or a better way that we could do it. Everybody could learn from somebody else, and by having that sort of open communication and willingness to share, it didn't matter how big you were. You didn't have to be a huge, giant box store with 30,000 employees or a tiny nonprofit with only 50 employees. There was knowledge to be shared.
Mike, so you and Colin have kind of started this. It was informal and now it's become a little bit more formalized, but these sessions every other Fridays where a bunch of people from the community get together and they talk about SaaS Ops and IT stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you see that, the progression of that being?
From out of Better IT, one quiet Friday afternoon, I think last November or December, it's like, who's got time to jump on a video call and let's chat rather than, talk face to face for 45 minutes rather than, IMing in the little Slack screen. I did another one and then somebody said, I can't make it. Can you record it? And it's like, okay, we'll record it. And then we shared it. And then somebody else was like, can you record it and share all the others? And it's like, hang on a minute, we're being asked to make a show. So, we called it Solve, stands for SaaS Ops Life Virtual Event. So I have the domain SaaSOps.life. It's a virtual event, and we like to get on a call and we solve things. So it was a marketer's dream. Tune in tomorrow. Watch out for on the channel. We're doing a brand new format. Instead of a sort of a panel discussion of a different topic, where we've got a brand new feature, and I won't say any more than that.
Exciting. Stone, to wrap up, do you have anything that you can share with us about some new community things coming out?
I can. First of all, we've mentioned Better IT a few times. Better IT is our dedicated Slack channel. You can find the link to that. I've always wanted to do this. You can find the link to that here. Well, you can find it down there. The link is betterit.cloud. So it's a free Slack channel. I think there's over 4,500 other IT admins in there. and it covers anything SaaS Ops related, really. So there's channels for G Suite, Office, Slack, Zoom, BetterCloud, really anything you want, you can find in there. And it's also just a fun place to be. There's a lot of really smart and clever people in there, and there's plenty of best practice conversations happening every single day.
You're thinking, am I the type of person that should be there? You're definitely the type of person that should be there. Also,
right.
like, not to plug our product too much, but if you do use BetterCloud or you're interested in BetterCloud, it's also a place where like our product managers are. I mean, how many other companies give you direct access to their like product team? Like, I like to talk to product people.
To speak to some of the stuff coming down the road, we plan on introducing more functionality to the community, and that will involve some type of web presence that lives outside of Slack, and it'll actually have ties into the Slack, and it'll have an interesting syncing mechanism going on there. If you're interested, we actually have some beta testers working on some of that right now. Colin's in that group. Colin, give me a thumbs up if you think whatever's in there is cool. And yeah, lots of exciting stuff to come later this year. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's about all the time that we have today. Before we sign off, I wanted to remind you that pre-registration for Altitude, the BetterCloud conference, is now open. So please sign up if you haven't already. You will see all of us there. And I can't wait. Colin, Mike, thanks so much for joining us today. Brian, thank you always. And we'll see you next time on the SaaS Ops Show.